A retired nurse in Surrey came home from a hospital appointment to find the locks changed and a for sale sign staked into her own front garden. She hadn't sold her house. She hadn't even listed it. Someone else had, using a forged transfer filed quietly against her title while she was recovering from a hip operation. By the time she got it sorted, she'd spent months fighting Land Registry and thousands of pounds on solicitors just to prove the house in her name was actually hers. The tool that would have caught it in 24 hours is completely free. It's run by the government. It's been available for over a decade, and almost nobody over 60 has ever heard of it. That nurse isn't unusual. She's what happens when a homeowner with decades of equity built up doesn't know about 5 pieces of paper that could have protected all of it. If you own your home outright, or you're close to it, you're not sitting on a fortress. You're sitting on an unguarded vault. Today I'm showing you the 5 documents that lock the door. This video is for general information only and isn't financial, legal, or tax advice. Speak to a qualified solicitor or financial advisor about your own situation before acting on anything here. I'm the presenter behind Retired UK. Every week I break down the money traps, the paperwork gaps, and the protections that nobody explains to retirees until it's too late. If that's useful to you, hit subscribe now so you don't miss the next one. Let's get into why you're a target, and then the 5 documents. Why you're the target. Here's what a mortgage-free home looks like to the wrong people. It's searchable. Anyone in the world can look up who owns a property and roughly what it's worth in under a minute using the Land Registry's public records. There's no bank sitting on the title, watching for irregular activity, and statistically, the owner is over 60, possibly living alone, and has never heard of a property alert. 3 types of trouble can come for your home's equity. Fraudsters who forge documents and try to steal or mortgage your property outright. Creditors who chase unpaid debts through the courts and can eventually secure them against your house. And the state, HMRC, and your local council, who can pursue unpaid tax or council tax debts all the way to a charge on your home. 5 documents protect you against all 3. Most are free, most take under an hour. And the gap between having them and not having them is the gap between keeping your home and losing it. Document 1. The property alert. This is the one that would have saved the nurse in Surrey. It's called Property Alert, and it's run by Land Registry, completely free. Here's how the fraud actually happens. Scammers search public property records for homes that are mortgage-free, ideally owned by someone older, ideally living alone or spending time away. It takes them seconds. They forge identity documents, submit a fraudulent application to change the register, a transfer, a new mortgage, a change of ownership. And because most applications are processed on trust rather than deep verification, it can slip through. By the time you find out, someone may have already borrowed against your house or attempted to sell it out from under you. The fix takes 5 minutes. Go to the Property Alert service on gov.uk. Register your email and add your property. You can monitor up to 10, which means you can also set an alert on an elderly parent's home even if it's not in your name. From that point on, you get an email the moment anyone lodges a search or application against your title. A transfer, a new charge, anything. Between April 2024 and March 2025 alone, Land Registry stopped fraudulent applications worth over £59 million. And Property Alert was often the first thing that flagged it. It genuinely works. Here's what should bother you. The Land Registry already has your name and address on file. They've never once written to tell you this service exists. Go sign up today. 5 minutes, no cost. Document 2. A restriction on your title. Property Alert tells you fraud is happening. A restriction stops it happening in the first place. You can apply to Land Registry to place a restriction on your property's title. Once it's in place, no sale, transfer, or mortgage can be registered against your home unless a solicitor or licensed conveyancer confirms that the application genuinely came from you. It's an identity checkpoint sitting directly on your deeds. If you don't live at the property full-time, you spend winters abroad, you're in a care setting, or the house is currently let out, this restriction is free to apply for. If you live there as your main home, there's a modest one-off fee, but it's a fraction of what a legal fight to reclaim a stolen title will cost you. This is Document 2. Search Land Registry Restriction Fraud on gov.uk, download Form RQ, and get it filed. An interlude: the state can also come for your home. Before document 3, I need to say something the American version of this advice always skips because it doesn't apply over there the same way. In the UK, unpaid council tax or an unpaid civil debt can eventually end in a charging order against your property. It works like this. You fall behind, the creditor or the council gets a court judgment, and if it's still unpaid, they can apply to the court for a charging order, which secures the debt against your home. It doesn't force an immediate sale in most cases, but it sits on your title and it can be enforced later, including after you pass away. This matters more for retirees than people realize. A partner passes away and a bill gets missed. A pension delay causes a payment to bounce. Nobody opens the brown envelope because it looks like junk mail. The fix is simple. Open every letter from your council or HMRC. If you're struggling, contact them immediately. Councils have hardship arrangements, and Citizens Advice can help you negotiate one entirely free. A restriction and a property alert won't stop this route because it's a legal debt process, not a forged document. That's why staying on top of bills is the ground floor everything else in this video sits on. Document 3. The lasting power of attorney. This is arguably the single most important document on this list, and it has nothing to do with fraud. It's about what happens if you can't manage your own affairs one day. A stroke, dementia, an accident, anything that leaves you temporarily or permanently unable to make decisions. Without a lasting power of attorney for property and financial affairs, nobody, not your spouse, not your children, can legally access your bank accounts, sell your home if needed for care costs, or manage your affairs. Your family has to apply to the Court of Protection for a deputyship order instead. That process can take months, cost considerably more than setting up an LPA in advance, and the result is publicly registered and supervised by the court indefinitely. An LPA, by contrast, is set up while you have full capacity, registered with the Office of the Public Guardian, and it names someone you actually trust to step in. On your terms, not the court's. It typically costs a modest registration fee per document plus whatever a solicitor charges to draft it, and it can be done in an afternoon. Here's the part nobody tells you. An LPA only protects you if it's actually registered before you lose capacity. A document sitting in a drawer, unsigned or unregistered, does nothing. If you already have one, check it's registered with the Office of the Public Guardian. If you don't have one, this is the document to prioritize this month. Document 4. Your will, and whether you need a trust. When your home is left without a valid, up-to-date will, it doesn't just cause family arguments. It can mean the rules of intestacy decide who gets your house, which may not match what you actually want, especially for unmarried partners who have no automatic right to inherit at all. A will also determines whether your estate benefits from the full inheritance tax allowances available to you. Right now, everyone has a standard nil rate band of £325,000, and if you leave your home to children or grandchildren, there's an additional residence nil rate band worth up to £175,000. Giving an individual up to £500,000 before inheritance tax applies, or up to £1 million combined for a married couple. Miss the paperwork or leave the house to the wrong person on paper, and your family can lose that allowance for no reason at all. For some retirees, particularly those with a blended family, a property portfolio, or a wish to protect assets for grandchildren specifically, a trust can also make sense, holding the property so it passes outside the standard probate process. This is more complex and genuinely needs a solicitor, typically costing more upfront, but it can save your family probate delays and reduce the risk of a will being contested later. One clarification worth making clearly: a will and a trust don't protect your house from fraud or creditors while you're alive. That's what documents 1, 2, and 3 are for. This is entirely about what happens to your home after you're gone and making sure it goes exactly where you intend, as efficiently as possible. Document 5. Enhanced title protection. When you bought your home, your standard title indemnity or your solicitor's due diligence covered problems that existed before you completed the purchase. Undisclosed rights of way, old boundary disputes, historic defects in the chain of title. What it generally does not cover is fraud that happens after you've owned the property for years. Someone forging your signature next year, not the day you bought the house. This is worth one phone call to a solicitor or a specialist insurer. Ask whether an enhanced or forward-looking legal indemnity policy is available for your property and what it costs. It won't stop fraud from being attempted, but if it happens, it can cover the legal costs of putting it right. Costs that can run into tens of thousands of pounds if you're fighting it entirely out of pocket. Combined with documents 1 and 2, this is your financial backstop if everything else somehow fails. Bringing it together. Here's your checklist. 5 documents, 1 weekend. 1. Sign up for Property Alert through gov.uk. Free 5 minutes alerts you within 24 hours of any activity on your title. 2. Apply for a restriction on your title if you're eligible for the free version, or budget for the modest fee if you live at the property full-time. 3. Set up and register a lasting power of attorney for property and financial affairs, so your family never has to go through the court of protection. 4. Write or update your will and speak to a solicitor about whether a trust makes sense for your situation and your inheritance tax position. 5. Ask your solicitor or insurer about enhanced, forward-facing title protection for your specific property. None of this requires you to be wealthy. None of it requires a team of lawyers. It requires treating 5 pieces of paper as essential rather than optional. The difference between the retiree who keeps everything they've built and the one who spends their final years fighting to prove it's theirs isn't money. It's whether they did the paperwork. This has been Retired UK. If this helped, hit like. It costs nothing and it helps this reach more people who need to see it before it's too late. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you haven't already. And if you know someone over 60 who owns their home, send them this video today. Drop a comment. Which of these 5 have you actually done? I read everyone, and the questions you ask shape what I cover next. I'll see you in the next one.